So with that being said, and kind of using that fight analogy, what are some of the rules that parents can follow to make sure that their pain and that anger and all of those emotions that come with divorce and that chaos don't become their children's legacy?
Great question. So here's the overarching policy, if you will, or rule of thumb. Keep the child out of it. Now, parents think they're keeping the child out of it, but what they're really doing is breaking some really important rules. And one of the rules is don't ever argue in front of your child. And that means if your child is privy to one half of the conversation, your half, right? Mm-hmm. Or you believe that your child is privy to the other half of the conversation and they're not, and you're not with them. Mm-hmm. Say, I think we need to take a break and talk about this later. Because when parents argue in front of the children, one of the primary issues is that kids are egocentric. Mm-hmm. And that is true from the time they're born until they're actually adults. They're egocentric. Mm-hmm. And what that means is they believe that they're the cause of this. And you can swear up and down and lecture them and reason with them and tell them 15,000 times that they are not the cause. They will still believe that they're the cause, especially if they see their parents arguing. They will assume that it's about them. And I've seen kids go to extremes to make the focus stop being the argument between the parents and instead focus on them, with self-harm behaviors, with acting out behaviors, because somehow if they can pull that anger back in where they actually believe the source is with them, then the parents will come to an agreement as opposed, and it sounds crazy but kids think very differently from adults. Mm-hmm. That they can take the pressure off of the argument between the two parents. So really imperative to keep that to a minimum. And I know that it's not always possible, right?
Right.
But I have in general in parenting, I have what I call a 70-30 rule, mm-hmm. which means you can get it wrong 30% of the time. You only have to get a C-, and everything will be okay. 70% of the time, do it right. Now we want to up that percentage, right? If we can, mm-hmm. but know that if you can not argue at least 70% of the time, that you're doing better than most. Another rule, mm-hmm. Keep your cell phone, your smartphone, and your other devices where you're communicating with your ex password protected, mm-hmm. off of the iCloud, and out of reach. Because, I've also seen situations where there's kind of a passive-aggressive thing that goes on. The parent's really angry at the other parent. They write something on their Facebook page or on Twitter or X to the other, to the other thing. And then, I don't know how it happened. My child read that text.
Right.
Well, it happened because you, quote, unquote, forgot and left it out, So you have to be pretty scrupulous about that. We really don't want our children to accidentally come across things that they don't need to see. They don't need to be a part of it.
Yes. I actually just had a conversation about this with a client about the importance of not posting anything on social media, because all it takes is a family friend who is friends with your child on social media or has their social media up, and your post happens to be up, and your child sees it, and that's impacting the way that they view themselves.
No question.
Absolutely.
Yep. Yeah, and the whole social media thing has really,
Right.
I think, complicated things in ways that nobody ever foresaw. When we first wrote the book many years ago, and it's now revised and updated, but there wasn't social media.
Mm-hmm.
There just wasn't. It was about phone calls and this kind of thing. And then we updated it because the social media can contribute in pretty profound ways to the feelings of your ex, towards you, even if you're on a vacation with your new partner, and
right.
you post all these beautiful pictures of yourselves together, and so your ex is seeing these, or maybe it's you seeing them about your ex, and it unnecessarily complicates the picture.
Right.
Another rule, I would say, is don't talk through your child. So huge. And parents say, tell your mother or father to be on time next time.
Mm-hmm.
Really, if you have something to say to your ex, say it yourself.
Yes.
Don't talk through that child. It's not fair to ask them to be the messenger for certain things.
Well, and you're putting them in an adult role.
Absolutely.
That they, even if they're 17, they shouldn't have to be in. They're kids.
Exactly. And, it's too huge a burden, especially if they know that their other parent is going to have feelings about whatever the message is. Because then the feelings are directed at them. And again, egocentric, they're going to feel the pain of that. And then I guess maybe one final rule. I mean, there's probably more than a dozen.
Right.
But one final rule is you don't want to parentify your child, as you just said. We don't want to make them into the adult or the parent in this. That being said, if your child comes to you with a problem that they have with their other parent, it's important to empower them to speak directly to the other parents about it, because it becomes unnecessarily complicated when we take on the problem that a child has, and it does not further a healthy relationship with their other parent. Kids need to know, like, if mommy always makes peanut butter sandwiches without jelly, and daddy always makes them with jelly, right? But they don't want to tell mommy that they want the jelly. Daddy shouldn't be telling mommy about the jelly, because kids need to learn to negotiate their own, and it's not even really a conflict, but their own issues, their own problems, their own relationship. And that's going to make a stronger, healthier relationship, which is kind of the point of this, is that the child should have a strong, healthy relationship with both parents, even though the parents are no longer married.
Correct. And it will make them, I think that it even, to take it a step further, it sort of helps their self-esteem in that egocentric relationship, because the more that they learn how to communicate with both of their parents and to embrace those relationships with both their parents, the better they feel about themselves.
Absolutely, Heather. You well spoken. That is absolutely true.